Welcome to Connecting the Dots, a non-traditional legal program with your host and trusted advisor, Liz Myska, your guide through the web of life's dilemmas.
Welcome to another edition of Connecting the Dots. I'm your host, Liz Myska. And this must be my day for having old friends and new friends as guests. Welcome, Linda Corby.
Thank you so much.
Linda and I go back, way back.
Long time. It's great.
Way back. Our spouses and ourselves were marriage preparation ministers. In the 1980s, I believe, that's when we started. So I can remember. I don't remember exactly where we were, Linda, where we were doing the trainings, but I remember you and your husband Mike were also into wine, and and that's not why we're here to talk about wine. But I do remember that.
Yes, we enjoyed many a bottle.
Exactly. So I have not had the chance to catch up with you over the past couple of years. I know you were working with hospice, and now you have a new iteration. So catch me up with what has happened. Let's say over the past 5 years.
Well, I'm retired since then, so I love my life right now. I loved hospice, as I think you had known, because I had shared that with you. I loved working in it. Before I worked in it, I volunteered about 4 years before I took a job in hospice. And I loved the people I worked with, loved what I did, loved the patients I sat with. So during the time that I was employed, a little paper came across my desk one day about End of Life Doula, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. I read it and thought, oh, no way could I do it right now because I put too many hours into work. So there's no time to, take a course and study and work and take care of my church and take care of my grandkids and do all the stuff I enjoyed doing. So once I retired, our youngest daughter was a recruit for the University of Vermont. And so she knew that they were having a new course. They were introducing this at UVM. And I believe Cabot was doing a grant for that.
Cabot cheese.
Yes,
okay.
Yes. So they were paying for, at that time, for people to become end-of-life doulas. So my daughter sent me an email and said, Mom, why don't you look at doing this? And I thought, oh gosh, this is what I looked at before, but knew it would just not fit into my life at that time. I said, oh, Angela, I'll read about it. I said, this is funny that you're sending me this because I thought about it before, but it wouldn't work. And so I looked it up. I did some research and decided that I would like to take this course and become a certified end-of-life doula.
Can you tell people what that is?
It is a non-medical person, okay? Some may be retired nurses. They still might be active nurses that want to do this too. But for the most part, it is for, the training is for non-medical. Okay. So you learn to do lots of different things with people at end of life. And end of life can be a long span. It doesn't have to be the last week of life. It could be months. It could even be years, depending on how the person goes. And we never know. We're not in charge of that. But most of them are pretty close by the time someone signs on to hospice or even asks the question, what should I do? There aren't a whole lot of end-of-life doulas out there. It's becoming very popular now, especially during the pandemic. And medical companies are starting to even look at that being a very viable thing because it's an extra layer for folks at end of life that maybe are doing hospice at home. Okay. Maybe they're not. They may be in a hospital, like we just accompanied or helped a friend that had her mom in the hospital. But just being able to be that listening ear, someone else that's going to accompany, you, or maybe help you live life to the fullest, no matter what that means. That may mean to the fullest in a week, could be a month, but to enjoy life to the very end. And sometimes that enjoying life is not, it doesn't have to mean that we're going to go out shopping and we're going to go out to meals. Enjoying life could be while I lay in bed, you could read to me. While I lay in bed, you could give me a massage. While I sit in my chair, I could listen to music. Maybe while I lay there and I'm scared to death to die, we could talk about this so I feel more at peace. There are so many things that are not talked about.
Right.
Even with their doctors.
Yes.
Sometimes doctors don't even like to say to their patients, I think it's time for you to be on hospice. Because they're going to lose them as a patient, for one thing. And it's a scary thing. A lot of people don't want to hear that word hospice, because that is end.
Right.
We know we're looking at the end, and that can be very scary. It can also be very beautiful.
I have to agree with you. As a lawyer, over the course of my career, I have found that people shy away or shove away any talk of becoming infirm or dying, because it's taboo. and it's our culture. It is our culture that we need to be young and strong and independent, and again, the death culture is something I think traditionally is scary. It's very scary. So it's something to be, you close your eyes and you don't have to think about it because it's not here.
Right.
And I would imagine that also augments when it's near, meaning you have a chronic condition. Someone is telling you, get your affairs in order. So there's nowhere to hide. Now there's no denying it. But I agree with you that there are not a lot of advocates on the side of the patient, because everyone is like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. Even the medical people don't want to talk about it. So I'm hearing that there's a linkage between, and it appears natural, a linkage between hospice and end of life doula. But has that been it doesn't sound like it's streamlined yet. In other words, that someone may capitulate and say, okay, I'm going to do hospice, but is there like I don't want that end of life thing yet. Have you had that? And I'm curious, what kind of training, did you do hypothetical situations in the training certification? But also, how do people respond to it? Do you have to coax people?
I don't know how it is for other doulas. I can only speak for the experience that I have had. However, I do know I met an ex-coworker in hospice. Now, she worked for the same organization I worked for, and then she moved on to another place. And I bumped into her shortly after I became a doula. And I told her I just got certified, and she said, oh, can you come to our company? Because we use doulas, where the company I was working with originally doesn't use doulas. So Some, I think, are starting to use them, so you would go in as part of the team. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do it as a ministry. I do not want it to be a job where I go in, 9 to 4, and you go to this patient here and that. There's plenty of folks out there that are end-of-life doulas that would love to do that. For me, I wanted to continue to be retired and to have what I would believe that God is sending me who he wants me to be with. And there's no shortage. I am, just a couple weeks ago, I was sent 2, within a couple days. So they come, and it can be the most wonderful experience to be able to accompany them. And what was nice was one of them was ready for hospice. And she used to be one of my volunteers when I was working for hospice. So she knew me, but when I told her I was an end-of-life doula, I said, if you are interested, I'd be happy to accompany you. And if not, I would highly suggest that you call this, or this organization. They're wonderful, and they could serve you well in hospice. And she decided she wanted me to accompany her to the end, which was such a gift in my life. So, and that was just recently. I just lost her maybe 2 weeks ago at the most. But it was wonderful. The hospice team came in and did their medical stuff that they need with her. I was there just to sit and listen and to let her just talk about the end. So, and a lot of patients will not talk about the end, meaning their fears, their concerns, their concern about possibly being in pain near the end. What's it going to feel like when I get real close? Those types of things, a lot of them will not have that conversation with their loved ones. It's like they want to spare them that difficult thing because they don't want them to hurt. They don't want them to be in pain emotionally. So we kind of push that aside. And I went into a patient that was actually, I used to teach religious ed when we were much younger. And there were these teens that we taught, and they would come to our house and talk about all kinds of things, and we knew their parents really well. And so I got really close to this one girl. She was like my daughter. And she had a very aggressive breast cancer. And she had a very young family, which was real difficult. Beautiful, beautiful girl. And so I went and kind of accompanied her. And I walked in, this was a couple days before she passed. And when I walked into the room, her mom was there, and her mom just said, "Oh, come on in, Linda. She's been looking forward to you coming." I said, "Okay," and her mom left the room. And I said, "What would you like to do? Do you want me to sit and try and relax you and massage your hands and feet? We can listen to some nice music. Or do you want to talk?" And she just broke down and started crying and said, "Listen to my breathing." And there was this gurgle, which we have a name for it, which I won't
thank you.
mention because it's kind of a little frightening. But this gurgling does not hurt the patient.
Right.
It's the sound that bothers people.
Right.
And it will bother those in the room more than it will bother the patient. The patient feels fine. And they have patches and medication they can give you so that it's not so noticeable. But she just said, "Listen to me." And I said, "Oh, I know." And she just started crying and crying. I said, "Okay, we're not going to do anything, but I'm going to sit here on the bed and just hold you." So I sat down and I wrapped my arms around her and I cried because I love this girl dearly. And we cried and we cried. And when the crying finally slowed down, I said, "Do you want to talk about this?" So we talked about her fears. What are your concerns? And she had concerns about her little boy, who was, I think, 5 or 6. And what's he going to do without Mom? And she had said, he said to her, Mommy, I'm going to think of you when I hear the birds. And I said, see, he's already got this, you know?
Right.
He's going to be having his mom around all the time. So we talked about those things that she couldn't talk with her mom about because it would crush her mom.
Right.
So those are the gifts that doulas have. You know, we get to sit there, but what we walk away with is so much more than what we give. Because your heart is so touched by the stories.
Right.
And I'll tell you, after we were done talking, I said, can I just massage your feet and your hands and see if we can help you relax? And I am not a massage therapist, but there's just something about touch.
The human touch, right.
Human touch is huge. So I do it very slow, and I pray for the person as I'm doing that. And I ask that, you know, energy and the peace of God can just flow into them. Well, when we started, I'm hearing this gurgling. All of a sudden, I'm hearing nothing, and I'm thinking, oh gosh, did she just pass away? I couldn't hear her breath, so I had to go up to her, and I heard her breathing. She had fallen asleep and was in such a peaceful state.
Wow.
So the gift of touch can do amazing things. And so I walked out of the room, and I always tell them before I start, if you fall asleep or you're peaceful, please don't open your eyes and say goodbye or anything. I'm just going to scoot out of the room. I want you to stay in that good space. That, to me, is quality of life. You know, you can give them as much of a sense of feeling good. And sometimes that touches that feeling good sense, you know. So that was amazing. I left that day. Now the woman I just lost a couple weeks ago, the same thing happened. And she was, you know, sick at the end because of the type of cancer that she had. And it was really important to try and get her to relax so she could rest. So she laid back down after being sick, and I said, I'm just gonna, you know, play some music and massage your feet. And her family could hear the muscles going up and down because she had vomited so much that she was having a hard time relaxing. And her husband, when I was leaving, he said, I heard it all just disappear. And he said, I had to walk by the door and see what was going on. And he said, and you were just there with your eyes shut, and you were just massaging her feet. But your touch relaxed her so much. And I said, that's what it's all about. It's not about us. It's about what can we bring to these people at end of life that's going to give them peace, that's going to make them feel loved and cared for. And many years ago, I saw a person, she lived quite far from my house, but my niece was a nurse and said, Auntie Linda, can you come out and try and help this person relax? Because she didn't want to take any medication for pain. And I said, sure. She was young. She had a young daughter living in the house with her, and her family took her in to care for her, which was wonderful. So she had this big, gorgeous room with the oxygen tanks going and everything that she needed for comfort. And I went, she had asked me to come 3 days in a row, so I went, and I would massage her feet, and she would fall asleep, which was great. That tells me, you know, I'm doing something good. Right. Well, the last day I went, she was sitting there in her bed, and the daughter said, the patient said, her family was in the room at the time, and she said, you've all invited me to come and stay here so you could care for me, but nobody touches me. And she said, Linda, who's a stranger, came in, and all she did was touch me.
Wow.
And I just looked at the family, and I said, you don't need me here. I will show you what I do to relax her, because you can give her more love than I can. And so it was a beautiful way, but boy, did that teach me how important the sense of touch is for people that are dying. They need us to hold their hand, to rub their arm, to massage their feet, to touch their face. Or I had one little woman that loved when you scratched her head. I love my hair touched. And she wanted, and she would say harder. I'd say, no, I'm going to make your head bleed. No, I love it. It's like, I can only do so much. But she just wanted me. And I would sit there for hours just rubbing my hand on her head and scratching her head. She loved it.
Wow.
That's pleasure that we can give. That's quality of life.
Right.
She couldn't get out of bed. She couldn't do anything. But I could give pleasure by scratching her head.
And being present. And not being, not trying to change the subject, or let's talk about what's happening in the world today, or something like that. In other words, allowing it to be, I guess not the word surrender, but succumbing, just permitting what's natural to happen. And I thought what you said about accompanying someone, that's beautiful. You didn't say, I'm going to be there. You just said, I'm accompanying you, that you're not in this alone. And even if you have other human beings in the room who are dear or related to you, I am there, even though, I am present. Very, very touching, Linda.
And you're present.
I'm very moved.
I'm
very moved. I just, because I would imagine, well, I know not everybody can do this. And I think going back to what we said at the beginning, the fear, do you ever have fear when you walk into that room? Do you ever think, oh my gosh, or is this just, this is very natural. I'm going in, I don't know what I'm going to encounter, but I will, whatever is needed, I will be directed accordingly.
That's exactly what it is. I don't have any fears walking in. Of course, honestly, I prepare myself before I go. Okay. I ask God to give me what I need to be for them, to remove me and let me just be whatever they need. And honestly, every time I go in peaceful, like the last one, when I walked in, she was vomiting. And I mean, if I'm home and I hear my husband vomiting, it's like, oh, I almost want to be sick.
Get me out of here.
Yeah.
right.
But that didn't happen at all. Not at all. It just, you're there, you're present for them. And that's all that's there before you, at least for me. I'm very, very much at peace. I feel this incredible sense of peace and calm. And I think that's why I am so drawn to it. I can feel peace in my life for other things, but I can honestly tell you it's nothing like I feel when I am sitting with someone and accompanying them. I can't change the outcome of them dying, but I can change the outcome of how they feel in the moment. And, when my friend was vomiting and her son was right there helping her, he was in front of her, calming her, and I sat behind her and just rubbed her back to try and get those muscles to relax so we could lay her back so I could massage her feet. And, you just do what you feel is going to be helpful to them. And there's so many things that an end-of-life doula can do. We can read, we can do legacy work, write letters to their family members if they can't write. Because not everybody's going to feel comfortable massaging feet.
Right.
I do. And I've seen the effect it has on people. So I feel that that's my gift. If I had a lot of crafty things and was great with crafts, I might do that. I'm not one of those folks. So I'm just trying to use what I feel is my gift in life. And I think my calmness, I'm willing to pray with people or listen to music with them, sit and just be a listening ear. And one of my friends that I lost the first time I went, she said, "You didn't say a word." And I said, "That wasn't for me.
Right.
That was for you to talk about. You know, I don't need to do that." So, you know, for me, that's okay. You know, I said I was blessed just as much as you were.
Well,
So, yeah.
well, I applaud your. I don't know. I'm at a loss for words, which you know is not usual for me. But the fact that you have this gift and that you're willing to share it with others, regardless, that when you're called, that you respond, and you and it's obvious that it's a blessing for you. It's a joy for you because you're easing someone's passage that again maybe struggling, that I don't want this, and again that resonates with me being a lawyer, where people are like, they identify me as the Grim Reaper, if I make them talk about this.
Oh, right.
So, but I think having that outlet of knowing there's someone who is going to pass you along, and ease you into the next place. I think that's very, very comforting. So, Linda, if people wanted, if any of my audience were interested in hearing more about End of Life Doulas, would you want them to get in touch with me so I can get in touch with you? How? I don't want you to be avalanched by by all three people who are watching this program.
They come in various ways. I don't know. They certainly could, contact your show, and you could send me an email. My thing would be is if they sent me an email, am I going to toss it out because I don't know who it is?
Okay.
Unless they put, End of Life Doula, that would catch my eye if that was in the subject. You get so many emails out there that you just don't know.
So how could people find you if they wanted to, I guess?
I don't advertise. That's the thing.
Okay.
So I would say if folks wanted to find me, they could, if they could contact you,
Okay.
you could pass it on to me,
Okay.
and then I would definitely contact them.
Okay.
That
All
would
right.
I would not respond. I would always respond, and I'm always willing to talk or email folks,
Okay.
whatever they need,
Okay.
and give them information on where they could possibly look for more information. There's a lot of stuff out there, and if they go on the websites of End of Life Doula, just Google End of Life Doula, they will find a lot of wonderful information out there.
Okay.
A lot of free information too.
Okay. Well, Linda, thank you so much for being my guest today on Connecting the Dots.
It was a pleasure. Whatever we can do, I think we all have gifts, and you have them. Everybody does. If we keep them to ourselves, what good are they? When we share them with the world, we make our life rich and someone else's. So that's important.
I will end with that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Join me again for another edition of Connecting the Dots.
Please note that the information provided in this show is not a substitute for consulting with an experienced local attorney and receiving counsel based on the facts and circumstances of a particular transaction. To contact Lizbeth, email her at lisbeth@elizabethlmyska.com or call her office at 508-753-7681. We're online at connectingthedots.lawyer. Executive producers, Liz Myska and Jack Peacock. Producers, John Medberry and Bill Hamilton. A production of Elizabeth L. Myska, JD, LLM, in association with Compliments.